Good evening, cheeseheads, and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. I'm back. I'm refreshed. I have had a bout of tonsillitis in between. Maybe all that talking on the last YouTube live gave me that. And I'm joined by not one, not two, but by three illustrious guests, which, I'm always grateful for the company on a Wednesday night. So joining me first, first up from Vienna, the Harlow Globetrotter, HG. How are you, mate?
Is he on mute? I can't hear him.
I can't hear him either. I think he is on mute. Are you on mute? Oh, there he is. Oh, he's back. Hello, HG. Did you say?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Did you say I'm all right?
Sorry, yeah, you can hear any of that. Good. It's been a good day, actually, to be honest. April de Macht was will, as they say here, because the weather's been pretty similar to what we're seeing in Munich right now with snowstorms and thunder and everything. But I'm doing all right.
That's good. It's good, and it's good to see you, and it's always good to be joined by you. Brendan, after your last pod appearance, people were very concerned about your welfare. It was a bit like when Britney Spears got admitted to rehab. You look fresh-faced tonight, like you've been to, fresh from the Amazonian jungle in some sort of detox camp. Either that or you've just not been on the liquor since 11 a.m. How are you, mate? And are you sober?
I'm good, mate. Yes, I'm sober. I've got my water in my Woody Woodpecker cup, which was the biggest cup I could find. I'm good. Do you know what? For me,
do you just not make big cups in like Brazil? Is there a shortage of big cups? Because Seb Short can probably sort you out with some imports exports.
But the Good Friday was fun. I mean, I'm half Irish, half English, so my sort of British and Irish side had a Good Friday agreement over a bottle of Bombay Sapphire, and the best bit was the kisses at the end, where I thought in my head I was like, Do you know what's a good idea? I'll blow some kisses. It wasn't ironic. It wasn't like trying to be funny. It was, this is a good idea. Yep, this is definitely the right thing to do. And then I forgot about it. Then saw Paul posted the freeze frame, the screen grab on Patreon of me blowing kisses to.
I'd forgotten about that, to be honest.
So yeah, I'm good.
I mean, there is this request from Phil Ambrose that says, "Can we have a drunk Brendan again, please?"
Next time.
So there we go. And fresh all the way, looking very fresh with a lockdown trim and a half there, all the way from Stoke, looking more like someone that would mug your grandma for a tube of Hubba Bubba than a podcast professional extraordinaire that we know he is. Seb, how are you, mate? The good cans you got there?
I'm good, yeah. I don't have anything smaller than these bad boys back in my ones and twos days. But
what I'm going to say is it looks like a cross between an Iranian refugee and a Cyberman.
That's about right. You're not far off.
Well, good evening to you. Pleasure to have you on as ever. So the topic of conversation tonight is Jose in or out. I'm not going to phrase it quite that simply because it would be a very, very short podcast if we did do that. So what I've got is a list of questions. So I'm going to come to you first, HG. At the beginning of the season, oh, by the way, if anyone's watching this, please do drop any questions or comments you've got in the box. We will try to get to as many as we can over the next hour or so. HG, at the beginning of the season, it was looking so rosy. After that dismal showing against Everton, we then put a string of games together and we were top of the league come December, and people were talking about us being genuine title challengers. I even had a bet on. I should have cashed out at 25 quid Spurs to win the league. HG, where did it all go so wrong? It was looking so rosy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose if you want to talk about the title in December, which I never did, then I suppose you'd be concerned. Where did it go wrong? I mean, I think in many ways we stopped doing the the thing that we thought that we were good at, which was playing a low block and getting results that way. The Liverpool game obviously was where it all kind of fell apart, but I don't think we played a low block against Leicester in the following game. So perhaps giving up the Højbjerg-Sissoko partnership might have played a part. There are lots of things that could have happened, but I think deep down, once results started to go, the confidence went quite quickly, because I think even the players would have known that even though we were top of the league in December, a lot of those results have been relatively fortunate, and we weren't playing that well.
Yeah. Bren, agree with that?
Yeah, I guess at least like HG said, we had an identity back then in sort of November, December, when we did string some results together. But again, it wasn't a great identity to have. It was quite attritional. It's what we expected from Jose. Just focus on the opponent, stop the opponent. We've got pacey forwards. Let's get the space in behind and get a few goals. And it worked, and it was fine. We were sort of like, well, I'll take it. But like HG said, the confidence dropped, the results dropped. Around the sort of the Palace draw, I think for me was the time when it started to go south. And yeah, it's we've had worse seasons, so I'm not slitting my wrist right now, but it's not been great.
And Seb, you were Jose in not so long ago. Then you were Jose out. What are you this week?
You just got me on here to set me up, haven't you?
Not at all.
Brutal. Well, look, I've been Jose out for a while now. I'm like most Spurs fans, whether you care to admit it or not, you want to win, right? And you can take the some, if not all, of the drab performances as we were when we're top of the league. Before we got onto those games where I think we had Chelsea and Arsenal and City, and we took 7 points. Before that, we played Brighton and Burnley, and it was putrid, turgid football. But we won, so we took it, and we're top of the league, and we're having podcasts and social media and all that saying, well, okay, this is how we're going to play, but it gets results, then great. But when it's not getting any results at all, and I think as HG alluded to, that Liverpool game, and then there was a Palace game, it was a Palace game, I think, beforehand. Yeah, that's when it just started to turn.
Yeah, it's depressing to think back what a positive situation we were in come December and where we're at now, really. I mean, and I'll come on to this. All is not lost. We're actually only 2-3 points off top four. Got a cup final to come. Surely we should be feeling buoyant. This is Mourinho. I'm sure could spin it some way that this potentially could be the best season we've had in forever, couldn't he, HG? And we're talking about sacking him.
Yeah, but we also sacked Redknapp after he'd taken us to fourth in the table. I think it's not really a question of how well you're doing. It's where you want to go and what you're trying to do. I mean, we all know those 3 games against Chelsea and Arsenal and Man City where we did play that low block, and we all sat here and thought, well, let's be honest, they're big games. You want to keep it tight. You don't want to give anything away. It made sense, but it never made sense to do it at Palace, and it never made sense to do it at West Brom or at Burnley. We may have got results in those games, but we all knew. We know that our team is capable of more than that. I don't care if your defenders are terrible. If we're trying to protect Dyer and Sanchez, well, Sanchez actually quite likes to play on the front foot. He doesn't want to be concentrating for most of the game. That's where he'll make mistakes. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, would it be a successful season if we win the League Cup and finish top 4? Absolutely. But I'm not sure, based on what I've seen this season, as to whether that would be enough to keep Jose in his job.
I mean, that's an interesting comment. You're not sure if we got top 4, won the League Cup, if it would be enough to keep Jose in his job. Seb, how do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think if I'm sure we'll come on to this, but if Jose gets top 4 and a League Cup, then he has the right to go and see Daniel Levy and say, I achieved this despite, he will spin it that it's despite having a number of players who aren't on board with him. And look, I've done this despite that. So back me further, get rid of the players that he considers to be bad apples and get in some players that he wants. I don't think that will happen, because I don't actually think we'll get top 4, and I don't think we'll win the League Cup. Miracles do happen, and it would put Jose in a much stronger position. But if it doesn't happen, his position, in my opinion, is incredibly weak.
Okay. Brent, who's let him down the most, do you think? Or is it, I mean, if you take the players into the and Daniel Levy, if you take the people at the club, Sacramento maybe, who do you think are the people that have let him down the most, if we're going to be specific? Because he's a very, the guy, let's face it, his Premier League record is exemplary, his cup record is exemplary. Everywhere he's gone, Tottenham's obviously a different beast. Someone's let him down somewhere, is it not? It can't just be his turgid tactics, no?
I think that there have been others to point the finger at. But for Daniel Levy, I don't think so. I think he backed him enough. We didn't get that marquee defender that he wanted, and I think he's trying to make points now by playing Rodon and Sanchez and saying, well, there's some things that I can't, that aren't mistakes because it's the player's qualities. It's nothing to do with me. As if to say, well, I wanted a strong defender, I didn't get it. But I still think that Levy backed him sufficiently in the summer transfer window.
Yeah. I mean, we were all happy after that transfer window. That's what I would say. Yeah. Relatively. Don't get me wrong. I think, I said, another centre-back, a quality centre-back would be ideal and on the shopping list. But by
Jose was happy.
Yeah,
Jose was happy. He came out and said he was happy.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Potts also came out several times and said, I don't want to sign anyone, but, that's another story. Bren, sorry, interrupted you mid-flow like only the caller can. Continue.
Yeah, I think there are certain players that have let him down as well, but I just think that his personality is one that will rub players up the wrong way. There are players that have had to have been moved on for a while now. We didn't move on. I think this summer there has to be an overhaul of the playing staff with the outs as important as the ins, if not more so. So there are certain players that you'd look at that have certainly let him down, that their performance levels have dropped. You look at Sissoko, he really doesn't care anymore when he comes on. He really, before at least what you'd get from him was a shift, was an effort, was something. He's not even putting that in these days. Harry Winks as well was the star of the show against Real Madrid, but again, just was like, oh, is it more tactical? Yes, it's more tactical, you idiot. And he can't handle it. So there are certain players that have let him down. Obviously, the ones delivering haven't. So Kane and Son. I think Lucas is still putting in a shift. Bale, there's a big one there with him and his attitude in certain times when he came off against Arsenal. He wasn't happy at all. But yeah, he's still. I still put most of the blame on him for where we are right now.
Okay, Seb, you agree with that, or has there been an assassination?
No, the thing with Jose is he makes a rod for his own back, and sometimes that can work. But I think now, as football has evolved, and really all the power is with the players. They're on so much money; they hold all the cards. You've only got to piss a few off, and it's like a house of cards. And I'll go back to Amazon documentary, just little things, saying to Sanchez, for instance, we targeted you when I was Man United manager because you're crap. That's basically what he said. We thought you were crap when you played for Ajax. We targeted you. Even the Dele's brother comment, it's just, they're antagonistic. I've actually done some research. We actually do research. I made a list. You won't be able to see it. I made a list.
It's his shopping list.
Shopping list, yeah. I made a list of the players that at some point this season or before the start of this season have maybe fallen out with Jose. And it reads Gazaniga, Aurier, Doherty, Toby, Dyer, Sanchez. Rodon's been left out of European squad. We don't know if that's pissed him off. Tanguy, Winks, Bergwijn, Bale, Dele, Rose, Vinicius. That's 14 players.
I mean, are these from your head? Have you imagined all of this, or is this public spats?
Which ones do you want to disagree with me on? Because hang on. You've put a couple of ringers in there for a start, haven't you? Gazaniga was never going to get a sniff of the first team anyway. You can't count him. How pissed off are you that last season you came in, you filled in Lloris, you actually did okay.
If he's on loan somewhere, he's gone.
Yeah,
Rodon
But
as well. Rodon, the European thing, he was signed too late for the European positions. So Rodon I'd take out as well.
What the box is saying.
Rodon could have been put back in already. So Rodon was left out originally because he wasn't signed in time, but then he could be put back in the squad. All right, there might be a couple.
Was Danny Rose on your list?
Danny Rose is on the list. Either way, these are players, apart from maybe Gazaniga, that are in and around that building, that training building, all day long. And you have systematically gone through the squad from back to front and pissed people off. You can't do that now in modern football. One or two, potentially, and you fuck them off, you get them gone, and the squad's fine. You've got key influences there that are pissed off with the way that the club is being run.
And like the thing is that we saw Poch do this, right? There was 4 or 5 players that Poch came in, they had a bit of a disagreement, and Poch completely isolated them, right? They had nothing to do. But that's the point. They weren't involved. Jose is keeping these people involved, so you don't really know at the end of the day who he wants gone, who he really thinks is good enough, or is it just I want you to be a bit harder, so I'm going to punish you to try and make you stronger. That's the bit I don't get. I can understand saying, right, look, Rose, obviously, he's on his way out. We all knew that. He didn't really want to be at the club. He's just staying for the money right now. Yes, that is all true. But there are occasions, there could have been occasions when you need someone like that. It would make much more sense to play players that you have than just assume that they don't exist. You keep everyone on board as best you can. And if half the squad, if half the team is thinking, I wish you weren't here, there are massive issues. It's not even about the professionalism of the players, because you would like to think, we'd all like to think that players would give their hardest no matter what, but I don't think we would. And let's be honest, if I'm working for someone who I don't particularly respect, then okay, there might be something in it for me as a personal incentive. Like the cup final would be a personal incentive for those players that are playing in it. But the rest of the games, right now, I might get Spurs Champions League. I might get a bonus at the end of it. But is that enough? I don't think so. I think you have to be a united group, and that's what we're not.
Yeah, you can see we're not in a united front right now. I mean, the players look like they're playing in silo, really, a lot of them. You've got little cliques, but, the teamwork isn't there, is it? And look at Lloris, when we got knocked out of the cup, wasn't it? He sort of had that rant, talked about sort of disparities. But then when Trippier left, he kind of alluded to some of that. So I suppose the question is, and this is where we get to with the Jose in or out stuff, I'm not saying Jose's not made it worse in some respects or blown it open, but is there a bigger underlying issue? As a lot of people on the Facebook page, when I posted, any comments or questions, one of the themes was there's a darker underlying problem at the club than just Jose, and that it's been alluded to in the past by Pochettino, by Trippier, that there are characters in there that are just assassinating. I say HG, I can see by your face you want to talk. I recognise that. I normally hear the tension through the mic when we're recording a pod. Tell me what you think, and then Bren, I'm coming to you next.
Look, to me, I guess that's all understandable. I mean, players want to play, but I do think that most people, that they just want to be treated fairly. Like, the players will know if they've played badly. They don't need Mourinho to slag them off in the press. Everything could be done, privately. This is the thing that I struggle with so much, is that in any line of work that I've ever been in, you talk to someone face to face. You don't gossip about them, certainly not on a national scale, to make everyone question them. The fan base is as divided as I can imagine. A lot of us may want Jose gone now, but that's fluctuated over the years. We spent 3 years not wanting anything to change with our manager. And that's because the players didn't want anything to change with the manager. The only thing we had were a few players that weren't playing as often as they'd like, and they got moved on. It would be lovely to have that situation, but we could sit here as fans who watch every game and think it would be lovely to know what Mourinho is trying to do. If he's 2/3 of the way through his rebuild, what is he trying to achieve? If it's just new players, well, I'm not being funny, I think anyone can do that. Yeah. If it's about a style of play that you want to work to, that we saw Poch do for a season. Poch played Bentaleb and Mason for a season. Right, neither one of them were really good enough, but they were the best he had to play the system that he wanted to play. And once they were kind of shipped out or moved on or whatever, everyone else knew the system. So the system worked, even if it meant putting Dyer defensive midfield, which none of us had seen before, and Dembele came kind of out of the cold to become his partner. I mean, Dembele was fit for a lot for the season, but it's just if we saw some semblance of a plan about what the future would be, then fine. Right? I think we'd all be mostly behind it. Even if it was the most defensive and dour football that worked, we'd be like, okay, we can see that because I don't want to get just top four. I want to build Tottenham to be a side that can win the league. And I don't think Jose can do that unless he gets rid of 2/3 of the squad he has right now. And that's just going to take too long.
I think that's what he's saying as well, to be perfectly honest with you, HG. I think that's exactly what HG is saying. Brent, I'm coming to you now, my friend. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's one thing that I've been thinking about recently is, I think we discussed it on the pod, is a director of football and the lack of one, the lack of a structure for continuity, because Jose is not going to be around for much longer. So again, there's the change in a new direction, a new idea and that continuity, that structure that's in place. I think it's Tichy Birkistan. I've got the name completely wrong. The guy at Man City. These big teams, they understand that need to have a structure. We've just got Dr. No, bloody Steve Hitchin, the guy from QPR and Derby. And I'm like, and it's not just about the recruitment side. It's not just about the poor recruitment. It's about having a structure, having something there to ensure that when there is a change of manager, that the players aren't just pushed from different directions, that there is some kind of identity for Tottenham, and that is what Poch gave us, as HG said. I just think that we're lacking that, and Levy's invested so much in the physical infrastructure of the club, with the training ground and with the stadium.
Stop there.
But there's more to it.
Stop there. I'm going to come to. I've already heard your opinion on this bit, Brent. So there's some comments in the chat tonight around Jose not being backed, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because it was a theme again on our Facebook chat, Facebook page earlier. He's not been backed. There was several people sort of saying Enoch out, Levy out. He's not back Jose, so what's the point? And I just want to get your opinion. I mean, Bren, you've already sort of said he backed him in the transfer window. Got that. Seb, what's your take on it? Was he backed? And should he be backed more for the rebuild that HG is talking about if he makes it to the end of the season?
I think he was backed. I can't see that we could have done any more in the summer and before that. Look, we don't know who makes the decision on these players. I think it was obvious that Bergwijn wasn't a Mourinho player going back to pre-COVID and that transfer window. I'm not sure about the Gedson situation, but then coming to the summer, I'm not sure we could have done much more. We've never been a club that goes out and buys that ready-made world-class player. So that the players that we did get, and you could argue Bale maybe is in that bracket, but the players that we got, we were all happy. Jose was happy. What more does he want? We looked at that squad, and even now I look at that squad, and that is a fantastic top four competing across all trophies squad. It should be good enough to compete in the Europa League, compete in the domestic cups, and achieve top four. Now, obviously, the argument is, as we've covered, that we might get top four. I can't see it. I've said that, but we might get top four. We might win a domestic trophy. And if you erase from your memory the shit show in Zagreb, then actually, are we just about hitting where we should do? And if we do, then, as I've said, Jose has the right, if you like, to go into Levy and say, I need to be responsible for overseeing this rebuild. Personally, I don't think that will happen. And I've never thought I'd say this, but I actually, if that is going to keep him in a job, I don't know if I want it.
It's interesting. Like, I think that, we can talk about, managers not being backed by Levy, because obviously Pochettino, we went 2-3 transfer windows without signing someone. we all think deep down that maybe Janssen wasn't his first choice, that he didn't really get his first choice targets. There's stories about Mane turning us down because Levy wouldn't pay the money and various other players, I'm sure. But if you look at Jose last summer, is it really only Skriniar that we can sit here and say, okay, he probably would have liked him over someone else? I mean, obviously Joe Rodon was the second, third, fourth choice because he signed so late. So we all know he wasn't first choice. Otherwise, we'd have signed him for 11 million in June, right? I mean, that would have been done. So would Skriniar have made us that much better? I don't know. Maybe he would have. Maybe he would be perfectly suited to a system where you just defend for 90 minutes because he loves it so much. But our best defense that we've had was a defense that basically the whole team defended. We played as high up the other end of the pitch as we could, so that really Toby and Jan, if they were doing anything, it was just mopping up, because most of the other team had put on the pressure to make it so that they didn't have a great deal. If you were good enough to get the ball out of our press and then work against our centre-backs, then we had the best centre-back partnership in the league. No wonder we looked good. But for most of the team did all of that work. It was really not down to Toby and Jan. They did the last knockings. And I think that's the situation. We've gone from a team that played on the front foot and liked to do that and were good at doing that. We put Dele close to the goal. We had Eriksen close to the goal. Son and Kane, we know how good they are. So we obviously changed that. Dele's not got the pace to play that way. Eriksen struggled because he wants to be 20 yards further up the pitch. We somehow got to a Champions League final with Eriksen playing as a number 8 when he doesn't really want to be there. Nothing has ever really seemed to make any sense. We're talking about a director of football. The good ones, as far as I'm aware, have decided this is the style I want to play, right? And I will pick a coach or a manager that can help me do that. If going from Pochettino to Mourinho is such a sea change in style that it shouldn't really be any wonder that the players struggled, right? But that would, again, we could say that if Jose had stuck to one particular game plan, and he hasn't. He's basically just said, you're 11 professional footballers, you're all pretty good, you go and figure it out. And it's no wonder that he doesn't seem to know which players are going to do that best, because his 11 changes every week. There's so much, it's just illogical. It is just completely illogical to me.
Okay. So, where does it end? I think we're all in a position where we would say, sack Jose. Am I reading that right? Just nod your head if that is like the case. No? Okay, HG, tell me why.
I'm Jose in for at least another 6 weeks.
So you wanted to see the end of the season?
I would like. Well, he definitely deserves the end of the season, right? Because I mean, who's if we sack him tomorrow, who's going to pick the team in the cup final, right? We do want to win the cup final, even if it meant Euro, Conference League, whatever. We do want to win a trophy. We've said that. Like, it would be so hypocritical for all the Spurs fans that have said, "Forget top 4. I want a trophy. Trophy is all I want," and then to turn around and say, "You know what? We're not going to beat City. Let's just have Ledley King pick the team." You may as well just open it up on Facebook and say, right, pick your goalkeeper here, and you'd have all the Liverpool supporters saying, "Oh, go on, have Joe Hart." I mean, it's just that would be the same kind of influence, really. It doesn't make much sense to do that now. But yeah, like when it comes to the summer, we need to know what he wants to do. And if what he wants to do is something that A, doesn't seem possible, or B, is just very unlikely, because he's pissed off so many players. Like if he turns around and says, Toby gone, I want Aurier gone, I want, who else? Dele gone, but I want to keep Lamella and Lucas because they work hard for me, without being too... I mean, the quality of those two players, although decent, is not good enough for what we want to do.
Yeah.
So which side is Jose going to back? You'd like to think it would be the talented ones, but he doesn't have them on side anymore. He has the worker bees.
I suppose the caveat for all of this is, Levy's sort of famed for sacking managers after poor results. We've got a very hard game coming up this weekend, haven't we? Man United, who will be full on out for revenge after that drubbing. Kevin Murray, shout out, says it ends after the Man United game. Seb, does it end after the Man United game? Is HG wrong?
I think there's a possibility, and the reason that I would say that is I actually give Levy a bit of credit, and certainly for the businessman side. And there will be rumblings, and there will already be conversations going on at boardroom as to who is going to replace Jose, should they need to. Now that will filter through. Yeah, Jose will be aware of that. Yeah, they won't be aware of the specifics, but they will have to put a plan in place. We're not Arsenal, who go and hire Emery after Emery's out of work for a week because it suddenly seems like a good idea. There will be a plan as to who is the successor, and when that time comes, I don't know. Yeah, I could see it after the Man United game. I could see it if we lose the next 3 and then lose the cup final. I could see it 100%. We've got 3 big games. Is it Man United, Everton, Southampton, and then the cup final?
Yeah.
So yeah, I could 100% see it before the end of the season, and I do actually think it might be advantageous to actually take the close season if we're out of the running for top 4, obviously past the League Cup final, to make sure we get the right man.
Yeah. Can I just say that if we do sack Jose at the end of the month, Daniel, if you're listening, I will happily pick teams for the rest of the season. I'm not being funny. I think I'd do a decent job. I don't think I'd be any worse, frankly, even if I just said, off you go, lads, you figure it out. You're the experts.
I mean,
the
look on Danny Rose's face when you put him in a starting 11 would be worth it on its own.
It would be. I mean, I was always a Rose fan. I hated the interview, the famous interview. I hated that about him.
2 or 3.
No, the first one was the one that did it for me. The first one was enough to make me think, okay, I understood the frustration that he felt because he'd seen his best mate leave for lots of money, get a fantastic new contract somewhere else, earning triple the money he was on. And Rose was like, well, I want some of that. And the club said no. So why would you say yes to Walker but not to Rose? That I can understand the frustration there. But what I don't understand is how he did it.
No one came in with 50 million for Rose. Milan never came calling.
No, but that was a good couple of years later. That's the funny thing. But at that time, when we sold Walker and Rose were both England internationals. They were part of the best team in the league. I mean, we finished second, but we beat Chelsea at least once that season. We were up there, right? No one had better fullbacks than we did. Danny Rose could easily have gone to Man United that summer, could easily have gone somewhere better. I mean, Man City is still looking for a left back. That's the crazy thing.
Good.
But I just think that how he did it was really irked me. But I saw him. I went to the Barcelona game, and I thought Danny Rose played really well that day. Right? I mean, granted, it's a good memory because we got the result we needed. But I just thought he looked like he was in control of what he wanted to do. We've seen Danny Rose make stupid mistakes, but he always gave everything for the club. We knew that, and he had quality. You wouldn't play that often for England if you didn't have quality, and so.
Well, interesting you mentioned Danny Rose so much. I actually dropped him a text. He Googled me and found out who I was. And I responded to him that, are you Jose in or out, Danny? Surprisingly, he said Jose out. So there you go. What about you, Bren? I've not come to you for a while. Are you still awake? Are you okay? You all right?
Still there. Still
good. When do you think he's going to go?
Yeah, like you were saying, it depends how the next 2 games go. I think unless there's a complete capitulation that it will be at the end of the season. I don't like the fact that we're right at the end now. Let's just see it out. United, I don't know. I'm relatively optimistic for that game. They've got great players, but they haven't really got a system. A bit like us. I mean, Ole is a bit like Jose. Well, you go out and you figure it out. The difference is they've got better players than we do. But I think it will be end of the season unless unless they get tonked by everyone. It's going to be during the summer. I don't think he's done enough. We've not improved. We've not kicked on. We've not done anything. It's just meh. It's just a bunch of players on a pitch kicking the ball around. There's no identity, there's no drive, there's no passion. It's just meh, and I want that meh to go.
I mean, I wrote a piece of yesterday, maybe a couple of days ago, where I looked at the difference that Moyes has had over West Ham compared to what Mourinho's done for Spurs. And we all know that when Mourinho came in, we were 14th and we went up pretty quickly. We won 4 of our first 5 games. We started doing well. Everyone was like, okay, he's turned things around. But that's as good as it got. It's never been that good again. We go 4 or 5 games. Even right now, we've won 4 out of 6. That's pretty good going by anyone's terms in the league. But we all know that we'll go. Wait a few weeks and we'll lose 4 out of 6. Like, we haven't improved from that footing that he put us on straight away. And that's a problem. You want to see people get better. Like, even if we haven't had a huge amount of money, we have had money. And we haven't improved the team. We may have improved the squad, but he hasn't got a first 11. No. We don't really know who's going to play up top with Son and Kane each week. We don't really know who's going to be in midfield with Højbjerg, whether it's going to be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. We don't know any of this. And we can't even say, hey, well, based on the opponent here, Man United are good, we're going to get 4-3-3, counter-attacking, compact football. If we knew that, we'd be okay with it. And I do believe that when he was manager at Chelsea, that's basically what he did. Like, he had a team that he knew, like, this is the system that I play. Maybe 8 of the team will play every game. And if we've got a difficult European game, someone like Ramirez might play as your right winger as opposed to the central midfielder, because we want to be a bit more solid. Was Ramirez that much better than some of the players we've got? Like, he might have been smarter, but on talent, you just don't know.
Lightweight Sissoko, isn't he?
Well, kind of. I mean, like, I think he was. To be fair, he's probably Sissoko with ability with the football.
He could trap a ball. Sissoko can't.
He could trap a ball, but that's the thing.
One thing as well.
Go on, Brent. Sorry
to jump in, but the connection that he has with the players. Like, I remember watching the documentary about him. It was Amazon, I think, or Netflix, sorry. And there's that picture of him crying with the Inter Milan player when he was going to Real Madrid, and the players were just devastated. And I remember a story when he left Chelsea the first time. Ashley Cole was crying, was on bits. He said that connection that he had with the players, where's that? It's gone. He doesn't respect the modern footballer. That picture of him with Højbjerg, that's the only time I can remember that a player and him have interacted on the sideline or on the pitch. I just don't see that connection with the players from him that he had before, and I think he is a bit of a yesterday's man in that aspect. Sorry to jump in.
I think there are players who in the dressing room absolutely have got his back, but there's just not enough of them. It's as simple as that.
But they're the ones that didn't play under Pochettino and now are playing more under him.
No, I'm talking Kane. I think Kane's got his back,
Kane is the ultimate professional, where he knows no matter who's manager, he's going to play every game. Right? He's that good. So he doesn't have to worry about...
You saw in the documentary, where he went to see him, the kind of vision that Mourinho laid out for him, and I'll make you... I think was his terminology at the time. In fairness, Jose or Kane he's thrived, hasn't he, under Mourinho? So I think there are a few players who are absolutely on the Mourinho bus. The issue is there's just not enough.
But Kane is all about the team, surely. Like, I mean, Kane might love individual accolades. I
agree he is.
You have to strike a balance. Like, obviously, it's great that Kane is having the best season of his career, but we finished 7th. It wasn't much, and I think certainly as fans, we want the team to perform. Like, I love if Harry Kane gets various individual records, because it means that he'll have done well. But if he does well and the team doesn't, it will mean slightly less to me, because I want the team to win. If Harry Kane becomes Spurs' top goal scorer, that's fantastic. But if we don't win anything at the end of it, it just shows that Harry Kane was a great player who was surrounded by people who weren't as good.
Yeah. Okay. So we're sacking him. Levy's going to sack him. I'm jumping ahead. I'm reading your mind. Levy's a businessman. He's just going to pull the trigger, because at the end of the day...
But if he does that, Caller, then who is he going to get? Because that's the next
that's
question,
where I'm
surely.
going. That's where I'm going with it. This is where we're going off piste. So I'm going to go Brendan in Brazil, fresh from rehab first. Who is the new Spurs manager going to be?
Who is it going to be, or who do I want it to be?
Who do you want it to be? And who do you think is likely to be?
I mean, the odds-on favourite is Nagelsmann. He's the sort of hipster new poster boy of modern football. I just don't know if I've seen enough of him. Again, there's that question: what's he won? And and you do want a winner. So I know this is a weird one and a left field one.
HG, what's he won?
Nothing.
There you go.
He got Hoffenheim to the Champions League. It's a pretty big deal, but outside of that, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's not my choice, but he's the favourite.
So who's your choice?
It's a weird one. Nick Ancelotti off of Everton. He's Jose without the baggage.
I don't think that's doable. Ancelotti, Everton even have got very deep pockets. Just about to get a new stadium similar to ours.
Fourth favourite after fifth favourite on thesackrace.com.
I mean that reliable source that is thesackrace.com. Yeah, okay. So he would be who you'd go for. Fair enough. That'd be good.
Yeah, he's won the Premier League.
Yeah. No, I hear. Seb, what are you saying?
Well, who I think it will be is Brendan Rodgers.
Oh, have you said that just because you know I'm going to HG next and he hates Brendan Rodgers?
Look, Levy has a history of ripping it up and starting again and doing the polar opposite. You know, if you go look at the history of our managers, and literally you couldn't get more different between the successive managers. So I see Brendan Rodgers as a possibility. Who I would like would be Diego Simeone.
Okay.
And from what the odds checker says, that's a strong possibility.
Michael Zeggs just said Diego Simeone would be good. Do you think he'd be good?
Yeah, I think
you do if you recommended him for the job. Yeah,
he'd be my choice. And he's a winner. And he's got that snarl that Brendan talked about with Mourinho. He's got that in spades. I want. He's still relatively young. He's won things as a player and as a manager. And he's the type of man that I'd want to see. We've got that Argentine connection again. That it'd be very good for me.
I love this one. Roy Keane for a few fireworks. You imagine Roy Keane doing the old, none of you can play football. You can't even trap a ball. Suzuki, what's that all about? What are you looking at, HG?
I'm speechless. Does Roy Keane live in Liverpool now, or what? I mean, just
fucking hell, mate. That's not my Liverpool accent, mate.
I mean, obviously there are links between Ireland and Liverpool, but still, it was stretching both accents.
I struggle because I go from the north to the south to the south to the north. Yeah, and then I put a bit of Scottish and Welsh in it, and by the time it's finished, it's just Mongolian. So no, I won't do any more accents. I promise.
Can I just say something? Going back to football, can I just say something about the managers that have been mooted, and that there's a lot of them that we shouldn't even be looking at. So when people say Graham Potter, we shouldn't be looking at Graham Potter. When we're talking about Hasenhüttl, I mean, we need to stay.
Eddie Howe?
Eddie Howe, well away. Nuno Espirito Santo, well away. These are unproven managers who are doing a bang average job at bang average clubs.
Parker.
Scott Parker is 2 or 3 jobs away, I think, from being a possibility. But yeah, these lower league. Oh, he's doing a good job at Bournemouth or Brighton or Blackburn or wherever you want to mention. Not good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, look, this is it. Like, I think I've probably seen more of Leipzig than anyone here. I followed Nagelsmann probably more than anyone here. Nagelsmann, he's just the type of person you want to punch. I don't, it's kind of like there's something
worse than me, HG.
Actually, wasn't you? You've got better dress sense.
That is true.
I just think with Nagelsmann, he's very unproven. And I mean, again, if I was Nagelsmann, right, and I am, the hipster choice in football right now, would I leave Leipzig for Spurs? No, I don't think I would. Right, like there's a very good chance that when Germany lose Joachim Löw in the summer, the Bayern manager Hansi Flick will go there. I really believe that because Flick has been for Germany before. He was parachuted into Bayern. Yeah, the Herr Flick, exactly. Parachuted into Bayern. I don't think he ever really wanted to be Bayern manager. I'm not really sure Bayern ever really wanted him to be manager long term. They were looking for a stopgap, and he went and won them everything. So, like, I think that there would be a much better chance of him to go to Germany in the summer and then Nagelsmann to take over at Bayern. I think Nagelsmann is from the Munich area anyway, certainly not too far away. He's going back home, and that would be a better place for him. Because at Leipzig, what can he do? All he can do really is beat Bayern, and that's really difficult to do. Is it the only manager in like 10, 12 years that's done it is Jurgen Klopp? It's not easy. So I just think that Nagelsmann to Spurs is a non-starter. After that, then you are looking at the people that probably, like Brendan Rodgers might be in a similar position. Is he really going to leave Leicester? If they qualify for the Champions League, does he want to take over a dysfunctional Spurs? Because that's what we would be. It might be more money for him, but he's got a chance to be in the Champions League. He's not managed there at a decent club since Liverpool, right? I mean, it's tough. And then you are looking at, I guess for me, you're looking at someone who has a distinct plan, who has been successful, right, at achieving that plan. Because Pochettino had won nothing when he took over at Spurs. He'd been successful by getting Southampton to top 8. I mean, like, if you were going to say that the 8th best manager in the Premier League comes to Spurs at the end of the season, is that what, Dean Smith? I mean, who are we going to get? So I think you have to think, what kind of football do I want to see? Who has shown results with, let's say, getting more out of the tools that they have? And then I think you are looking at someone like Hasenhüttl, to be honest, because he got Leipzig to second in the German league. He only left because Leipzig were like, actually, we want to have Nagelsmann take over in a year. And Hasenhüttl was like, well, I'm not going to sit here for a year while just waiting for him. So he quit and he went somewhere else. And I like that about him. So I understand that Southampton are lower table, 14th, I guess right now. I don't even know where they are. They're not as high as we would like, but I think that type of manager is probably where we will go.
And we've probably got Kevin Walker-Peters back on a buyback deal if he became the manager.
He can bring Ward-Prowse and Ings with him. I think we'd all be okay with that.
We'll be happy with that. We'll have some of that. We'll have some of that. Did you see that message I just flashed up from Paul? Yeah, shout out Paul. What's Seb talking about? Poch hadn't done anything with a bag average club. Well,
first of all, he 8th is a lot different to 14th, and secondly, we're a lot different club than we were 7-8 years ago when we hired Poch. We just come out of the Tim Sherwood era, so I would like to think that, as we talked about, the facilities and the infrastructure that Levy has built, therefore requires a better caliber of manager than a chap who has overseen a couple of 9-0 losses in the last 18 months, and at times I think has looked clueless. He's got a pretty decent squad there at Southampton, and I know they've had a few injuries, but I think he's underachieved. I think Potter is doing as well as can be expected. I think Scott Parker's doing as well as can be expected. Those are not managers that we should be looking at.
I've not seen them linked. If I'm being really honest, said by anyone credible.
A lot of social media want us to go for these new trendy managers, and Hasenhüttl is seriously linked. I think I saw he's 16 or 20 to 1.
I understand Hasenhüttl being linked, though. I do. I think the way he approaches the game is a very Spurs-esque way, and he works clearly used to working within a budget.
Losing?
If Southampton win the FA Cup, would that change it? Because they still could, in theory. I mean, but that's the question. So if it's about winning, then that's the problem. If it's about being the type of manager that can take over the behemoth that Spurs are, because we are. I mean, Seb's right. We are a massively different club now than we were when Pochettino took over, and a lot of that is down to Pochettino, right? I mean, I talk about this often on the pods. The kids I teach, they know this sign, right? When I wear this to work, they know what club this represents. And when I started 5 or 6 years ago, people didn't know that. So the club has changed. But the question is, who is available? I don't really want Simeone because I don't think he speaks English, and that's a big thing for me, right? Yeah. And I'm not sure he'd leave Atletico, but still, like, I think that's a big thing for me. You've got Allegri, who's been out of work for a while. I don't think Ancelotti would come. Had Ancelotti been available when we sacked Poch, I'd have had Ancelotti over Mourinho every day of the week. But he wasn't. He was still at Napoli. So, where do you look? Wherever you go, you're going to be looking for someone most likely who who hasn't won anything. Do we really count Rodgers winning stuff at Celtic? I don't know. That's the question. Are Leicester overachieving? Possibly. Are other clubs underachieving? Definitely. Right? So then, should Arsenal be above Leicester? Yes. Should Spurs be above Leicester? Yes. But they're not, because they're underachieving clubs. Is Rodgers doing that well with the players that he has? Yeah, if you look at the table, he's doing all right. But are they really overachieving? That's a good question to ask, because I don't know the answer. But you have to look at those things, to me.
Tim Sherwood, caretaker manager. There you go. That's what TM says. Bring him back. I think that would literally kill HG. That would send him out. I mean, it'd kill a lot of Spurs fans, but it would really, really rip through the heart of HG.
But the thing with Sherwood, that's the crazy. Sherwood got decent results in the league. We can't knock that. But he alienated players, and he sounded like an idiot, said stupid things, and that was enough. I didn't know what he was trying to do. To him, it felt like Mourinho and Sherwood are very similar. They just kind of throw players onto the pitch and say, off you go. But I don't think, Sherwood ever had a plan. We all remember the image of Vertonghen in the Anfield tunnel looking like he was at Hackney Marshes for a kickabout with his mates, and we got stumped 4-0 that game. Yeah. Like, a lot of that, I think, came down to Sherwood. They just didn't respect him.
Well, fair. So I think we're all agreed. Jose out at the end of the season. Yeah.
Yes. I don't see anything changing. So yes.
Seb's like whenever. Tomorrow's fine by me. Yeah.
We've raised a good point though, in that who's going to come in? Like, it's not that simple. And
well, Bren, you know as well as I do that Daniel Levy, whatever you think of him, how much you dislike him and think that he doesn't back the manager and all the rest of it, does generally have a bit of a plan when it comes to these things, I think, and he will absolutely be lining someone up if he hasn't already.
Rafa Benitez for a year. Watch.
I don't think it will be. I think if it was till the end of the season, you'd take Rafa.
But Rafa wouldn't take it for the end of the season.
No, he wouldn't take it.
The interesting thing is, right? Let's say, I don't think this is going to happen, but let's say Pochettino only signed an 18-month contract with PSG, right?
Can I just say HG first? Rafa took the Newcastle job. He'll take anything, mate.
No. I think Rafa will take the Spurs job, but not for 10 games,
okay.
Right? I mean, not for 4 games. He'd want to have it for next. He'd get a 2-year contract, almost certainly. And I think I could see no wrong with that, if I'm honest. Benitez has proven to win things at various clubs, winning, I think, the Spanish league with Valencia. He's done a pretty good job no matter where he's been. He won the Europa League with Chelsea on a 6-month deal, so he knows how to win. I wouldn't be against Benitez at all, but it probably wouldn't be my first choice. Let's say that, and neither would Neil Warnock. Or I've seen someone. Who was it? Someone in the comments said Frank Lampard. I mean,
he's in
come
there.
on now. Who is this? Lindy Millard? Oh yeah, that's my mum. Thanks, Mum.
Southgate. Gareth Southgate.
Come on.
All right. What about this guy? Haag, Ajax.
Ten Hag, yeah. I mean, he wins things with Ajax. They're in the cup final. I know they're probably.
But that's like winning things with Celtic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, like in Holland, you have usually there are 3 big teams, but Feyenoord have been rubbish for a long time. But it's usually quite close. I think last year Ajax were joint top with AZ Alkmaar when everything stopped. So there's a few decent teams, but I think when you look at Ajax and when you look at let's say clubs from lesser leagues, you're looking to see how well they do in Europe. Now, obviously, that Ajax team that we beat in the semi-finals was Ten Hag. But I think that team was extremely good, and we were very lucky to beat them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that was really down to Ten Hag. So, yes, you can say that he's won things, but are they as good without these players? I don't think so. Yeah, it would be that would be more of a gamble to me than someone like Hasenhüttl.
Okay, look, thank you for your contributions. We're agreed he's getting the sack, so that's clear. We're agreed that it doesn't really matter whether it's now or the end of the season. In the words of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, it doesn't matter when it is. we just need to line up a replacement. So there you go. And we really managed to stay on track quite well there, I think, because I teased the spectre of Manchester United at the weekend, and no one bit. Because Brendan, we've got a preview show tomorrow. We're going to get that out over the airwaves this week. I want to thank you all for joining us, and a special thank you. We've got an extra patron joined us this evening, who is, I saw it earlier, TJ.
Yeah,
TJ. Yeah, thanks for joining at Patreon. The link's in the scrolling ticker. Go to patreon.com/the Cheese Room Podcast to find out more and join up. And Seb, football prizes. Do you want to talk briefly football prizes before we go?
Yeah, football prizes got a fantastic prize this week, actually. Jan Vertonghen, remember him? What we wouldn't do for prime Jan Vertonghen right now. They have a beautiful signed and framed Jan Vertonghen shirt, home shirt, and it features LED lights. It's beautiful. Tickets £7.45, but you get a 10% discount with the code 10cheese. I think there's 99 tickets, and the draw is next Monday, but it is already selling quite quickly. So footballprizes.co.uk and check out the Jan Vertonghen shirt.
So look, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support for the podcast. Please do like and subscribe to the YouTube and Facebook groups. And in the meantime, come on, you Spurs. It can only get better. We've still got a cup final. We can still finish fourth. And we'll definitely sack Jose whether he does that or not. So thanks very much. Cheese Room out. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.